Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So it seems like Artemis has been postponed again because of a fuel leak. The thing I don't understand, the other thing I didn't think about last time in the last podcast I made about NASA's 50-year absence from moon missions, is the fact that this time, maybe this is to do with the age that we're in, of age of safety, but they're going to first send up, if they ever stop postponing and actually can fix these fuel leaks, send up an unmanned rocket that's going to orbit around the moon and swing a shot back. Then they're going to send, is it in 2024, people inside the capsule who are going to just go around the moon and not land on it and come back. And then in 2025 or 2026, assuming this all actually happens, they're going to send people up who are actually going to go around and actually land on the moon like they did in 1969 up to 1972. And also now, if they ever get Artemis I off, they've got mannequins in there that are monitoring temperature and all that kind of stuff. And the thing I don't get is, like, all of this has already been worked out. In 1969, wasn't Neil Armstrong and his team, weren't they the test? Weren't they? You know, I know they tested the rockets and things, and people died doing that in America and Russia. And obviously there was Challenger. But the actual, 1969, they didn't send anyone up. Maybe they sent people up to orbit the Earth, like Yuri Gagarin did for Russia. But they never sent any rocket up just to get it to the moon and back, or just send people up. Maybe, I suppose they would argue that they couldn't do that then because they didn't have the remote control technology that they do, or they're going to use now, programming power that they can do now. But it just seems strange that, from 1969-72, they worked out, all the data they needed, how to make the rocket, the trajectory needed, all that. Everyone who went out into space never died. Obviously, there was the Apollo 13 issue, but everyone came back, and, everyone who was out in space, there was no problems. No fuel leaks, things went off. Yeah, there were problems, but what I mean is that humanity has already been to the moon and back several times, and surely has all the data that it needs. And now we're like back on the testing phase, which obviously it adheres to those moon deniers, or whatever you want to call them, that think that maybe we didn't go to the moon. Vis-a-vis Capricorn 1 or Stanley Kubrick's 2001, and maybe him or some other director filming those scenes that we all witnessed, or I didn't witness but have seen since, of Neil Armstrong and his team on the moon. But it does lend to that kind of thing, because I could obviously see an argument for that, to say that because it doesn't make sense. You've already worked out how to do everything. You've already tested everything. And now you live in an age of technology far superior than you did in 1969. And yet it's going to take all these years and all this testing and all this making sure that it's safe for them to be able to do it. And it just seems strange, that, to me. Anyway, that's enough of Artemis I. The other story I noticed is about Mississippi, to do with the water, and that struck me as a rather, I don't get that. There was a couple they were talking to that have been boiling their water since 2019 to bath, because in Mississippi the water's not safe, and now the government has told residents of a town in Mississippi, I think it's Jacksonville or Jackson, not to, when they shower, not to open their mouth, to shower with the mouth closed, because I guess the water has toxins, because they're saying it's, what I understand, is some kind of flood that's left them with no water. So what water are they using now that is dangerous? Is it water that's not been treated, or why would they do that? Like here, when in the UK, when they run out of water in a city, they send trucks to pump water and to give bottled water. So I'm just, obviously there's a racial element of this, because 80% of the people of this town are people of colour. And so it lends to that argument, is this a racial element that's going on here, that not that maybe it's being done on purpose, but that they're not being helped on purpose. They're being allowed, that if this was New York City or California, they wouldn't be asking their residents to close their mouths when they're showering. Can you imagine the Kardashians being told that in California, in Calabasas, when you shower, don't open your mouth, will you? And, don't drink the water, make sure you boil it. The residents of New York City and California wouldn't be living like that. So it does lend to that argument of, like, why is this happening? Why is this being allowed to happen? Surely there's a better system than that in the big old US of A. And the other story that I saw was about, it was a few weeks ago actually, it was a Sky News article about a synthetic mouse that had been genetically, they made a heart tissue and lungs and things, and so they're sort of getting close. And I believe in Israel they'd already done this previously, where they're getting to the stage of being able to create life from without an egg and a sperm, although they are still using genetic material to create these things. So it's not like they're God in the sense that they can just mix two chemicals and create it. They're still taking bits from living things to make other living things. But it obviously begs the question of that, if ethically this is ever allowed to progress more, and eventually, I assume the argument originally will be, well, we can now manufacture your own replacement heart from your own DNA and genetic material. So if we just take a bit of your skin or a bit of your blood, and then we can manufacture another heart for you if you have a heart condition, or another liver if you have a lung disease, and of course that will be beneficial to humanity. That's obviously going to be something that will pass. And then this idea of, well, it's a stepping stone, isn't it, as we get further to creating life ourselves. And then, that if you create something that's not born, as it were, in the natural way, and this is maybe 100 years in the future, but it will get there, because there will be scientists that will want to do this, like there's scientists that want to go to space, or scientists that wanted to make a radio communication or TVs and etc. Scientists who wanted to do heart transplants, or wanted to try and create life from other genetic material that hasn't been in a womb, to create a baby that is not born from the normal reproductive way that they are. And therefore, if you create that, because they've already started on the verge of creating heart and lung tissue that hasn't come from the normal process. So if they can create the whole thing and then create a human being, will that human being be alive like you or me? Will that human being have the same rights? Will it be like these AI films of Philip K. Dick and etc., where they're not treated in the same way? Or will we have to have, like in Blade Runner, Do We Dream of Electric Sheep? Is it the Von Kampf, something like that, test to see who's a human and who's an android. And will this, if we are humans, create another human? Will that human have a soul? if there is such a thing as a soul, obviously religiously people believe in this idea of that there is a God and he created us and there's a soul inside each one of us, and when we die, the soul could be energy. This might not be that mythical, but that energy, that then transpires to another dimension, to heaven or hell or purgatory, the in-between, until a judgment and a finish and a coming to God, all of us. So if you believe in that, then if a man can create, it won't necessarily be able to create that soul unless the actual act of creating a human being creates the soul within. That that first beat of the heart, that vibration creates the soul, and so therefore. But the thing is, if we are able to create a human being, how will we know the difference? They will stand, and remember, when we're a baby, we have nothing. Guga. We don't. We learn everything. We're a blank slate. Yes, obviously there's nature-nurture arguments of some of the genetic things we pick up because people become like their parents, but then that could be because their parents are the ones that train them, and their quirks come off on their children because they live with them. If you took two children from one family, took them somewhere else, and then maybe they wouldn't have those same quirks, and then it isn't to do with some kind of genetic pass down. But then we do know that diseases are passed down genetically, so maybe there is other data that's passed down. But the fact is that if you can create a human being, you can create a brain. It's like an empty computer. As long as you've got all the hardware and Windows and etc., it will function. And so this human being will function just like you or me. It will be able to learn like you or me, maybe even better if we can tweak those kind of genetic things. So that leads us to a future of a different way of reproducing, a way of reproducing through genetic means, clones, possibly for our own body parts. Of course, that becomes more complicated when you create a human being, because then they have rights. And then is it right for you then to create I suppose if you just create a heart, then that's fine. But if you create a whole human being just to cut him up, to take the bits out and put them in another human being, that's where it becomes more sticky. But this seems like science fiction. But we've already started that through this article. Like we've started to be able to create that the beating of a heartbeat that's created through other genetic means other than reproduction. So it will be interesting. I mean, we won't probably see it in our lifetimes, but any children now may see it in the end of their lifetimes, a human being. And of course, by that time, through science fiction, through TV, media, whatever, as we change our mindset, as we have done, if you look back in 100 years of your own lifetime, how things have changed and how we have, it won't seem like a taboo to create artificial intelligence or reproducing or cloning or that kind of stuff. That will be normal, like things that are today that are normal but 40 years ago weren't considered normal. That's just progress. And then so in 100 years time, that child born now will see that and see a new dawn of humanity. We're able to create life ourselves and the dangers that may bring, because that way may be better than the way it could be the end of our evolution, reproducing wise. But then could we just be empty vessels that we've created that can learn and mimic like a robot can, and can speak and can work and can have fun and do all those things, but is empty inside soul wise, and we put ourselves out of extinction. But I guess, of course, I suppose the argument is if God is, all present and all knowing, this is all known to him, and either that'll be end times or that's allowed or that's part of the plan. That's the beauty of being able to write whenever and adding those things as we find them. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting article. I'll put the link in this so you can see that. So yeah, a lot going on. Also, there's the Pakistani floods. I mean, the footage of that, of the land that is just, was dry originally and now is like a river, has just sprouted out, and all the suffering that's going on for these people that are already living in a country that has suffering compared to the West. And to think that we now have to raise money charity-wise to help each other out, because countries may give donations and this, that and the other, but because of the way we live, the division of countries, the division of humanity, because of money and that kind of system, we have to get money to help each other. Whereas we could just send the things, if we loved each other as humanity should do or could do, we wouldn't need to worry about money. We wouldn't have money, because money is a restrictor, because it stops us from doing the good things that we need to do. Because if we got rid of division of power, we wouldn't need to see that, I'm above you, I'm above, I need your land, or this land is mine or yours, because it's all of us. Like whenever, it's funny because of the space thing, they keep saying about how space is no one's, it's all of us. But what about here? Why don't you think about, when the new journalist says that, why doesn't the journalist think about here? You don't think that this is all of ours and everyone's and it's no one's. So if you understand that about space, why you don't understand it about the very land that we find ourselves upon? And then we could understand that, it is all of ours and none of ours. And we should all look after each other. And we shouldn't need money to be able to send things. Because if we didn't live like this, we wouldn't have all these disasters in the way. I mean, you can't stop natural disasters. Although, with our cloud technology and putting salt and all that kind of stuff in there, maybe that's not true, actually. Maybe we can stop these things. But there are certain things that are just part of nature that we can't stop. But we could have stop people dying in Pakistan and those countries, because if we were all one human being, all humans working together, we could have by now, through our knowledge and power and energy and passion and love, created an equal platform for everyone, so that every country has the same facilities that they don't have. If there was a flood here, look how it's resolved. Look how the emergency services and all that starts, and people start to do all the things that need to be done. Those things all could have been taught to other countries. The countries wouldn't need to live in suffering when they die early and die of diseases we've already cured, and live in poverty, abject poverty, and a terrible existence, their one existence. Because we know how to make, say like an America or the West or whatever, or Dubai or whatever country you want to say is opulent, or got all the technology, got all the hospitals, got all the infrastructure, all the people that are needed there to care for humanity. We know how to do all that, so we could have just made that everywhere. And what's to stop us? Nothing's to stop us, because we have everything. We've got time, because we've been given time. We've got people, the people who do it. We've got resources. They're natural, they're free, they're in the ground, they're everywhere. We have the brains to create all these infrastructures and systems and buildings and whatnot, and systems. We have all of that. The thing that's stopping us is the way that we live, the way that we see each other, the power that countries have to be lower than other countries, and we have to have kings and queens and politicians and divisions of land and nationalities and all those things, those man-made systems. Anyway, that's me going back round in a circle to where I always end up. So yeah, that's my news roundup for the week on the pursuit of truth. If that hasn't depressed you, take care, take it easy, God bless and peace. Help share this message, help make this change come, because I'm just a little voice who gets like 10 or 15 views. If you're hearing this, if you just share it to wherever you think it may get more, or even onto your own social media, then at least it'd be one more. And that'll be one more voice they can hear if you believe that we should change the way that we live. That, you know, these things that I've discussed could become part of history, and that we could truly live. You know, I know it sounds so out there, and, you know, oh, it can never be like that, because that's, you know, as a child you ask your parent, why can't we just reprint money, or why can't we just do this, why can't we love each other, why do we need to fight each other, why can't we just help each other? But because we're programmed into, you know, growing up and developing that this is the only way, but it's not the only way. When you realise that we are free to do whatever we choose, if you believe in God or not, we have the freedom to do it. We're just stuck with the system that some people 1,000 years ago have created for us, and we've just inherited and keep going around in that hamster wheel, not changing it. And the only way we can change it is by understanding that, wait a minute, wake up. Why are we living like this? Why are we allowing suffering to happen to our fellow brothers and sisters? Why don't we see them as our fellow brothers and sisters? Why do we have this division of nationalities, of human beings? We're one. Take care, Daisy. God bless and peace.